Ragnarok 1.
Ragnarok, Ragnarok, Ragnarok 1. What are you doing today for fun? Ragnarok, Ragnarok, Ragnarok 1. All right, here we go. I wrote that song.
Oh yeah, shooting star for Andy's card being an artifact. No, that's just a regular gold star. Shooting star's got to be like hundreds of chapters in advance. But yeah,
Okay,
gold
wait.
star for sure.
What's the star for?
Andy's card being an artifact.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! Woot woo! I don't know if you've heard this. Predicting is kind of my thing.
It is. You're good at it.
Until I'm not, but that's how that goes.
I still stand by. I think sun is an embodiment. I We'll talk about this later. We'll talk about this part later of my theory, but I think we start with that. We get into the story. Fuuko gets stabbed. Ruin shows up, and this is the first time it feels like, and I know you say it happens later this arc, but I think this is the first time for me that we are introduced to a character who at no point are we then made to come to love. And maybe it's because this isn't someone for Fuuko to deal with, but
Or it's because Fuko hasn't had to deal with them yet
yeah,
because you don't put Fuko back in the path of the person who tried to kill her.
yes. But it is interesting, isn't it, that this is the first character who's just fucking hateable. Like,
It's
just
beyond
absolute shit.
interesting. It I am I'm what we in the game call a non-fan.
Unruin is a bastard, and his motivation is God sure is cool. He's a lot like an evangelical in that he's on team the world burns.
Did you just say he's an evangelical?
Hey, did you know that there's a growing movement of evangelical Christians who believe in climate change and want to accelerate it because they believe it's the rapture? That's real. There's people on team climate change. I'm not joking with you people. That's a real thing that exists.
Humber Toeth just said God's groupie, if you may.
Yeah, they're literally on team climate change. It's a major movement in the US, and there's more of them than you think there is. It
Can I
comes up
just
in
say
church a
that
lot.
something that was a little surprising? That's a little surprising. There's 2 gods? They keep
Yeah,
referring to one
we knew
god the whole
Luna
time?
was something, but I
But
didn't. I
but you
thought
know
Luna was
why?
like a herald of God, not a
They
god.
they refer to God's game, God's this, and
Yeah,
we think they're talking about a singular god, but they've always used a plural, but that's how we talk about gods. Like, we talk about it as
well,
possessive, so they can get away with sticking an S on in that way.
they have. Yeah, it's interesting. They have talked about God a lot, like God an entity. But I
Yeah.
guess what they've meant by God this whole time is effectively Sun, because Sun is the one creating punishments. But and it suddenly makes sense that we have weapons created by God to kill God. That Luna has been making the gods. We gotta get into it. We gotta just go bit. Do we go bit by
I
bit or do we bounce around? This arc is
Listen, we
a
do
lot.
what we do. I know this you're not used to this because I'm always leading the charge and I go wild, but here's how
Yeah.
we do it. We just talk.
Yes. We just talk. All right. Let's just talk.
When they were all hanging out with Fuko's body on the ground, I was like, on one hand, I'm not all that worried about it because I was like, well, we're gonna have to see Fuko again. But then
Mhm.
I was like, oh shit. What if we see Fuko and she stays a ghost? Like, that's a different way of doing a tale, and I'm not sure I'm here for it.
Yeah, and it feels like the type of person who could. Um,
Oh,
oh
I
yeah,
did
do
want a
we
rebirth. What did I say about a rebirth?
something? I feel like we definitely both get a gold star. It's an obvious one, but it is a gold star to just say that we would get a loop and Fuko would come back. I think I get a silver star though because I mentioned as part of that when you were
They
like,
take
but
it easy.
we can't lose all of these characters we've come to love. I think I get a silver star for saying, and not as a prediction, but casually, there's going to be a method for sure to get their memories back. Because as a writer, you don't lose all that. You don't give up all this character development.
I agree.
That is the thing I
We
said. So I
knew
think
we
that's a
knew
silver
it had
star.
to go all over again, but I said to you before, the only part that's making me not think we're gonna go all over again, and yeah, Rafe has said it, is the idea of Chekhov's gun. You can't be like, oh, we're one from Ragnarok, and then be like, but we're never gonna do that.
Yeah.
And then they do. So we predicted that accurately. But then I
Mhm.
was like, but then you have to start all this shit again. And
Yeah.
then you casually had said, yeah, there needs to be a way for us to have all their memories there because otherwise what a pain in the ass.
Yeah. It just
So
feels
yeah.
like kind of a waste.
Oh. I'm still convinced that Foucault's unnamed artifact gun is called Chekhov's gun. Okay, if it is,
That'd be
high
so
five.
fucking funny.
High five
Well,
all over the place.
yeah, that'd be so goddamn funny.
No, I think one of the coolest things about this arc, and I think we should start with the thing that you said to get into everything,
Yes.
um, is when you said to me in a text that I didn't see until this morning that this has almost the same quality as Eden. Get
Yeah.
into that.
So I started to have an observation that I think a lot of this series is about the biblical lore of the Garden of Eden. And my thinking on that comes from a couple places. Number one, this is very, very important. Andy sounds a little like Adam. That's incredibly important
Mm,
detail that we need to acknowledge, that it
I
sounds
would
a
agree.
little bit like Adam. My real thinking, the thing that made me start to think about this is when I was thinking about Uma, there's supposed to be rules. Clothing is not a rule normally, but one of the biggest ways that we talk about the Garden of Eden was the idea that modesty was not a necessary concept before the introduction of sex and cities and people, like people beyond a couple of people. And I started to then think about the idea of these scenes, these flashbacks of Juice and Victor meeting each other as a lone man and woman in an empty world without rules. Naked people in the garden of the Jurassic period at first. So I started to think about how much this feels like the Garden of Eden. Why else would we have Uma clothing? That's not a rule, that's a technology, unless the perfect state of the world was about the perfect state of the world was Eden. And it also got me thinking about the idea of Luna as Satan is kind of a thing I've come around to. Now, at first I was wondering if the snake and Satan were Andy. And I think there's a chance of there being something to that because I think if the state of the world before the Uma was Eden, one of the first things you would add to punish humanity for leaving the garden, for wanting more than the garden, would be death. It would be dead. Dead would be one of the first Uma, which would create undead. Because we see when Seal is talking about how to deal with undead in the past, you trap them, and we see the snake being covered by the rock, which kind of suggests Andy being in a Satan-like role. But if you look at the writing of the Romantics, such as Milton, with the concept of Paradise Lost or the Songs of Experience versus the Songs of Innocence, you see this idea of God as a paternalistic and punishing figure who believes he should get to make the rules for humanity, and Satan as a dangerous figure with belief in humanity that thinks humanity should have access to knowledge, pain, and pleasure and live a rich, fulfilling life of autonomy. And when I think about that, it kind of makes sense that Luna would be a Satan figure who wants to give humans weapons of great power and have the ability to fight against God and choose their own path, vouching for the autonomy of human beings. And it would make Sun a God figure, wanting to punish humanity and create embodiments of the pain and suffering they have asked for by asking for autonomy, for the right to choose their own path. And more this arc, we see people talking about the right to choose and fighting God and the choice to fight God. And the more this idea of choice comes up, the more it does feel like kind of an Eden parallel.
I agree.
Yeah, and those flashbacks were from before the addition of the rule sex. Exactly. So, sex, whether it's biological, gender, sexual reproduction, or both not existing yet, really tie in with Eden as well as a concept, in my opinion.
So something else that I decided is I kind of
Okay.
see like when we're talking about the Garden of Eden, I saw kind of a mixed metaphor. So
Okay.
I saw both a Garden of Eden and kind of like this idea of God isn't always the one who's good, because why would a good God want to keep knowledge out of the hands of humans? Like, you think
Mhm.
that knowledge would be another thing in order to grow and become amazing. And so I also thought that there was this idea, this Prometheus type thing going on with Andy,
Okay.
that Andy has to die over and over and over again. And in some
Mhm.
way, Andy, being the thing that is undead, kind of feels sorry for humans who have to die, but also longs for the ability to follow humans and be allowed to die. And so he has stolen something from God to try to help humans get to finally beat the games of gods.
Mhm.
And as a punishment for stealing, he has to die over and over and over again. There's also this idea for me with it because the one the Aegis, the shield,
Yeah.
comes from the idea of Zeus skinning the goat that raised him, and then they use the goat hide to create a shield named Aegis.
Okay.
And so in some ways, I started to think of Andy in that Prometheus way because I was like, it kind of goes with that amazing idea of Andy being death, but also being the thing that helps humans from Zeus, who is trying to take over. So it felt like both an Eden feeling and
Mhm.
a Zeusy feeling.
And I think this is part of why when people are saying
Wait a minute, raised. It is both that and the Medusa shield. It has a bunch of different things attached with it.
yeah,
Carry on.
part of what someone is saying that they don't that while this is the theorizing can be fun, they don't need an answer for what Sol and Luna are, Sun and Luna. And I agree. It's also why I'm not making a theory based on the Garden of Eden, just an observation that I think this is an intentional theme, that I think this is meant to be perceived this way. This is like the idea of of the world without rules, the Garden of Eden, is meant to be thought of. I don't necessarily think there's any theorizing to come from it. Like maybe later on it'll be confirmed that, oh yeah, this was meant to be Eden. But I think it could just be an inspiration for the imagery or the concepts behind it just as well. I don't think it's necessary that uh, those themes are pulled on for where the story goes.
I also think there has to be something with, I know that sun is soul, but there's going to be a thing with soul and soul.
Okay.
Because I
Also,
think that when we talk about something being soul bound, like I'm just thinking about Andy's tattoos and the specific number and the undead thing on his arm, that it feels like that is, and I said it before, soul attached. And so it keeps coming back despite the fact that his body can be burned or blown and it's there again.
mhm.
And so I think there's eventually going to be a play on words with the idea soul, S-O-L, and soul, S-L-U-L. And I
Maybe
think,
it feels like it's very English dependent, but we'll see.
I don't know, Eden, I love it connecting with a few different mythologies in that way. I think that it's going to make this so much fun to watch because I think Andy is going to become so much more important in the story.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Because why does he have to continue to exist?
mm-hmm.
Even when there's no rules, no rules put on nothing, Andy is still forced to exist in the same way and ride out the ages.
Maybe it's because dead needs to exist.
Well, I think if you're going to have life and you're going to argue that life needs to have value, then you're always going to need to have death.
Mm-hmm. But also, you can't like he is the most his the Uma that he's the negator of. I guess you don't always need an Uma and a we haven't had that confirmed that you need an Uma for every negator and vice versa, but it
No.
can have unspring. But we did have burn and unburn both introduced. But I think like dead is something so incredibly necessary. Like dead as a concept is so needed for punishing people fleeing paradise, for punishing autonomy. Like it is the basis. The idea of the Garden of Eden is eternal paradise, right? So to punish humanity for not having that, you need dead. So maybe that's what it is, that you need someone to be undead. I
Well,
don't
dead would always have to exist because if dead didn't exist, then the game wouldn't exist in this universe.
True. Yeah, the game to challenge humanity and try to kill them can't work if you can't kill people.
Exactly. Dude made me, I really don't like, okay, this is obvious. I really don't like Unruin at all. Unruin is a piece of baggagey crap. But does he have the same bags under his eyes that's not makeup? Is that the same bags under his eyes that What's-Her-Face had, who was unsleep or unrest?
That backstory for Unsleep was very cute. The romance there was sad and adorable, and I liked that a lot.
I really did too. It was amazing.
We're
Billy's
doing
character.
whatever. but I think it gives us a new perspective. But I want to get to the point that we're talking about the ending because the ending is it really alters the rest of this. So for rereading it, I just want to wait a little bit.
I also love the new rules get added on January 1st. That's a week away. There's no way that Fuuko's body will last. Well, we're going to have to just skip time them.
Mm.
And how did we not know that there was going to be something coming up? Because then Juice screams up, Luna, let's make a deal. I'll transfer all my points
Yeah, you
over
pointed
to
that out.
these. In exchange, send them both a week ahead to the day of the quest results. Oh, that's a F up then.
What do you mean?
Well, if Juice moves all her points to those two, then
Oh
later
yeah, but
on,
they had to immediately spend it.
but then
They had to spend it to ride the arc to a week in the
then
future.
whose points moved him into the future?
It was Juice's points. So
No,
she
no,
spent
no.
them.
I'm sorry. I mean later on, Andy would have had to immediately have spent his too.
No,
Doesn't
because
Andy?
Andy didn't. I think it was just costing Juice's points to ride at that time, and it was Andy's points that he'd gained from previous runs from all
Because
the
she
different things.
says, I will transfer all
No,
my points over to these
remember,
two.
it was Victor who transformed to spend points. Remember,
I
Victor
agree.
took over.
I
It
agree.
was
But
Victor's points.
wouldn't she had so many damn points, it was absolutely ridiculous. And if she had
No,
transferred
no,
all
no.
of her
Let
points,
me.
I'm not done.
I can explain it all, but you need to let
I'm
me
not
go.
done.
Okay?
If
No,
she had
I know what you're saying, and I can explain it.
no, I'm talking about a different thing. If she had transferred
No,
all of her points, she couldn't have rode on the arc later on.
yeah, she'd given up at that point already.
I don't think
They'd
she'd
already
already
talked
given
her
up
into it.
though.
They'd already talked to her about it. She had already committed to it being Fuuko.
I don't. She had kind of half committed, and we didn't know. But she obviously full committed because
Yeah,
there we go.
yeah, yeah.
But I honestly am saying, if she gave them all of her points, I do think that she would have had enough points left over.
Well, no, she wouldn't because she has to spend all of her points every cycle.
No, I meant to move them forward.
Yeah, that's a yeah. What I don't. What are you saying?
Pause. Let me think.
Yeah,
Um, why does Victor have so many points?
because he never has to spend them because he survives anyway. So he accumulates points from killing Uma over and over and over again, and literally never has to spend them.
And then do we I just think that my problem with it is that we don't have any kind of accurate reading on how many points a person needs to ride the arc, how many points
Yeah,
it would do to move that far ahead, etc. I think
I,
that's where my
I,
unlike of that is.
where I'm at is we know that Juice makes sure to get enough points to ride the arc every time because she has to, and we know
Yep.
Victor never has to. So Victor just got to accumulate points and never really worry about it. Um, that's why it makes sense for me. So Juice only had enough to ride it once because it only saves up enough for one ride because that's all that's needed.
Agreed. But we never know. Like it doesn't just say like when Victor transfers his points over to Fuuko, we don't know how many points it takes to ride, do we?
Oh, the people are saying the implication is the one with the most points gets to ride it. Interesting. I can see.
Ah, see, and that's my question.
Okay, so it
Okay.
takes all your points and you have to have the most of them.
Okay. Well, that changes everything. That I think, yeah. Mm, fascinating.
It is so squeaky.
So
I
then
gotta grease it up again.
what happens then if because in all of the times that they've gone through this, she must have had a time when somebody else had more points. What does she do? Force them to transfer points?
Kill
Like
them if they see you as having truly defeated them. You get their points.
that's exactly that's exactly what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
there's no way that in the past that Juice didn't have to kill one of her allies, one of her
absolutely.
friends, in order to get enough points to ride in that chair.
I I fully agree. Although Raventh is pointing out she does pick who goes on quests, so she might have just been able to measure out how many points people were getting them and make sure no one ever had more than her.
I don't know. I don't think that's so. Because when you're in a battle, lots of times when they're out in battles, they call in for reinforcements or
Mhm.
things don't go the way that they needed them to go. Repeat
I think
what,
at
Dr.
some
Jeff?
point she probably has had to kill an ally to go, but I think most of the time she's probably able to manage where
I
she
think
sends
so.
people.
I think that if you're going to be in her position, there is no way that you don't have to kill a friend at some point. And now that they can't do the ride again, which is good because that would be very,
Yeah.
very hard on Fuuko.
Yeah.
I know that people are saying that they're not of much of importance, but I disagree. You don't put something like a point system in, call up to the moon and say, I will transfer all of my points, or say you don't have enough points, or let Victor talk through Andy and have two people at once if points aren't that important later on at some point.
I think that we're going to see the points be relevant again,
Yeah.
because you can still ride the arc to skip time for other reasons, even if you aren't able to avoid Ragnarok again.
I also think that the points are going to become important because I think there's more to the game.
Mm.
And so I think because there's more to the game, I think there's going to be more relevance for points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Riding the arc does not spend points, you simply need to be in the first seat. Okay, so it doesn't cost them, you just need to be the person with the most. Okay.
I love this story so much.
It's a really good story.
I love that there's little things that you can get stuck into that way. All right, I'm moving.
All right.
Moving forward, staring at an earth. And then we don't realize somehow when the moon is talking, again, I was like, I don't know how I noticed this. The moon's
Yep.
having tea and says, Graces of the moon be upon thee. And then moves them forward that the moon would obviously be a god. Like, I was like,
Yeah,
come on,
I felt like
turkey
it was a
Popeye.
herald of the god. Like I felt at that point like Sun is god, or at least the final Uma, one of the two. And I felt like Luna was meant to be the herald of that god. Like it's announcer, it's servant.
Yeah, I was pissy with myself for not picking up on that. And I was like, oh, damn, lady, it's right there. She's having tea with a god. Like, she brings Luna down. The blessings of the moon be upon you. But okay, whatever. I also like it because it feels like even though the sun is supposed to be this big, bright ass thing, somehow the sun in this one is a dark black
Yeah,
magma blob that comes
sun,
out. And so when you're talking about the balance of yin and yang, the sun is the dark half.
there's something so interesting about the fact that the sun is drawn completely black, and I think it's partially because you can make whites look brighter if there's a lot of black on a page.
Yeah.
It's a weird trick when you're doing inking. Uh, but then Luna being drawn in pure white and the sun
Yep.
being drawn in pure black is a very interesting subversion of your expectations there.
And a definite intentional choice. And I was like so here for that because normally when we're looking at something, the sun is always the bright side and would be the light side of the yin and the yang. And instead, this time it really felt like the moon is the light side of the yin and the yang of the balance of this piece. And I was like, yes, that's a cool choice. I think that I became even more every single chapter I read of this, I become even more interested when they do things like this, when they have ghosts suddenly come out, like the addition of Uma Ghost. And I'm like, why does Uma Ghost matter? And then all of a sudden, the souls come out as ghosts, and we have a changing of what souls are. They're no longer an ephemeral thing that we can't see or that doesn't exist in some real way. They become this actual thing. And I was like, yes. Yes. The story does things in a way that every time it does them, I'm so proud of it.
It's so cool, and the idea that of course Juice knows what the Zuma does because has done the loop so many times and is just aware that this is a way we can buy extra time. Yeah, Ghost was so freaky, the powers were so cool. The chase this kicks off with Andy having to go hunt down Unruin.
Yeah, but you're right. The fact that we see that Juice actually knows already what the next thing is going to be, they've talked about it, and she knows what that will look like and why they can use that to their advantage. That really creates depth and layering within the story in a really cooler way because we can see in those moments the way that um her multiple rides through this scenario have just she's just become such a library of information, and so it gives the story so much more depth. Like, they do such a good job of using their own um setting to create a really cool depth within the story. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
they're like, I'm creating these setting rules, which is going to allow us to explore all these things, but I'm going to understand my own setting so well that I'm going to be able to make you feel like you have been a part of this story forever and you are also on the loop.
It's so interesting People keep bringing up the Rip fight. They really want us to talk about it, and it is a fight that gave me a lot of value. Do you want to get there? Or is there something?
Where are we in that? Are we close to the Rip fight in our piece now?
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess before the Rip fight, we need to meet Lucy and have Andy's voyage with Lucy, and meet Seal.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask us to do that first. I refuse to go past that.
Yeah, I agree. So
Let's go through it.
Seal's a
Boom,
trick.
boom, boom. Because Seal sucks. Do you remember? Oh, and do you remember how we talked about this yesterday? Or I don't know. I don't know if we texted or talked it, but regardless, how I kept saying like this thing is trying to make us both right on all the time. I can completely understand why you and I are on two sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
and one of us believes that this is going to be manga slash book, and one of us believes that it's a video game, because they keep making books so powerful, important in this. That one of the main things is that stupid book, who's screwing around with us as an Uma, Ragnarok, and then we have Lucy and her connection to her book, and her book is the thing that gives her the most joy and taught her how to use her soul. And she already suspected, because Peter Pan existed, that there was the ability to use your soul. Pet the boy. And then we have the manga that they're using that's written about this. Oh yeah, Apocalypse is an artifact, but still a book. And then we had another book earlier on, and so it keeps making the books have this massive importance, and then it keeps doing video game things, calling people NPCs, having point systems, talking about winning and losing a game. So it feels like it is so on both sides of this coin, that's why we keep going back and forth on it all the time. We both have real reasons
Yeah,
to believe in it.
there's so many thematics around books and characters and story, but there is a lot more terminology that feels game based, and it's really interesting.
So it feels like the terminology and the rules and those pieces are kind of the sun, and they are game based. And it feels like the book and the ephemeral feelings and the attaching book to spirit are moon, and they are more manga ish. Does that make sense in a way?
Kind of.
Yeah. And I don't know how I mean that yet.
Yeah, I'm
I
excited
just,
to see what we can get for that in the future.
yeah. So I like that we get frickin' Ghostface comes out, and then stupid boy whom I hate is like, "Oh, I just happened to kill all these people for you so you can play with all of their ghostersons." Um which immediately made him be this whole entire different thing to me of hatred. But what was a as long as I don't forget, then people won't die. And
Mhm.
souls are what give people life. And that's the kind of world I want to believe in. I touched you, didn't I, Fuuko? So you're still alive. Your soul is still alive. That was such an incredible moment. And this is exactly what I mean, that the author does a stunning job of taking the things that they say and they have put into the story, and then it uses its own their own creation to add depth to the piece. They bring back things that we didn't read that long ago, but by bringing them back, they're making us feel like there is even more depth to the characters, and they're tugging on the emotions that we know that the characters have with each other and the packs and their understanding of the world, and that's brilliant.
I just This goes back a second. I have to step back on something you just said because I had a realization. Moon creates artifacts and Sun creates umas and rules,
Yes.
which means also creates negators. You can
Yes.
see what you're talking about with one being the game and one being story themed really clearly when Akira is given the pen by Moon, and as a punishment, Sun
Yes.
intervenes and creates the unseen negator, which that is story and book being created by Moon and game being enforced by Sun as their give and take.
That is the exact thing I'm talking about. Thank you. Because I kept being like, no, there's even more to that. That feels like sun is game and moon is book. And that's exactly why that's in the back there. Well done. Nice catch.
All right.
Um, and so That's something that I think that I wanna keep an eye on throughout it because I kept feeling like there was something I wasn't picking up on, and that's precisely it. I feel like the moon is in charge of kind of that side of things, and it's a manga, a book type feeling, and the sun is gamified.
Hmm.
Yeah. Ah, it's so good. I'm so and I was really relieved, and I'll say it again. As soon as they started to move towards the sun, I was like, "Good. That should happen because you killed all the seasons, and it's ridiculous that you just keep moving along without the seasons existing and thinking that that's not gonna have an impact on everything."
The fact that it was a no-win situation, though, that like once you're at 99, everything's over no matter what, is fucked, but it makes sense.
And then you're like, "So how much earlier do you have to catch it?" And the question is moot because you have to go to Ragnarok because somebody like, Fuuko has to be there to beat them.
Can I say something that I think is going to be really interesting for this new loop that we're on?
Yeah.
We see uh, that our girl Juice has seen Ghost before, right?
Yes.
But we are told by Apocalypse no one's beaten Summer. Do you know what that means?
What? If we
The
can
order
you
the rules are unlocked changes each time, meaning we're about
yes!
to enter an entirely different world than the one we've known because what rules exist aren't going to be the same.
Ugh. Does Fuko's memory of the stars somewhere come up? Are we just assuming that the story is saying that she had memories of the stars just tucked inside of her? Or are we going to find out that there's something else going on, that Luck has got some deeper connection because she drew the stars before they existed and said they just felt like they needed to be there because it felt lonely. The
The
moon
movie felt
felt lonely.
lonely. So both of us just did that at the same time, right?
Yes. Shit, yes.
This means something, and it sucks that I don't feel like we know what it means.
Oh my god, the moon felt lonely. Shit.
Oh, fucking hell. Fucking shit. What is this?
Okay, 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 okay.
This is something.
The moon feels lonely. So there is something in there about the moon being separated from a sun, the sun giving no attention to the moon only being able to get light off of the sun.
Fugo didn't know she was painting stars, but she did paint stars. Is there
Yeah,
something in she touched memory, the card memory, and it get holy fuck, dude. You want to talk about video game shit? Memory is
okay.
a card,
Yes, yes, yes. I
and
actually
its
thought that one
abilities
last night
reset.
and forgot
Yeah.
it while I was laying in bed. A memory card.
Yeah. I played PS2 games. I remember this
A
era.
memory card. Uh,
Oh man, the moon was lonely. Fucking hell.
the moon felt lonely. There's something so big in there
She was so excited. Moon was so excited to see Fuko. Did Moon make Fuko instead of Sun? Did why is Fuko special? Is she just her? Oh man.
because then you start to ask the question,
Man.
is 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 Andy or Victor the sun's special? No, because he can't be. Yeah, I know that the moon is surrounded by all the remains of failed Earths, but they don't light up.
Oh god.
That's a great question for Zero. The idea of Luna and the sun having a similar relation, like Andy and Fuko and Victor and Juice.
If we weren't doing a show, I would be binging this series. Like I'd be done so.
I'd be done it so hard right now because the moon feeling lonely is a huge thing. So Fuko giving the moon a friend is too easy because if Fuko is giving love to the loon and feeling bad for the moon, then she's asking the question of like, why is the moon lonely? Are we going into myth here? Is this the Japanese lore of the moon and the sun being separated or Western?
Fuck man. Fuck man.
Does the moon wish the sun and she were back on the same page as each other? No, it shows more than Fuko's kindness. It's going to come to mean something very important.
Well, yeah, because the moon Like the moon is God. She needs to come to love God, right? But the important one's the sun. Like that's what's hard to come to love. It's not hard to come to love the thing that is helping humanity, even if it's misguided by giving weapons fueled by hatred instead of love, right?
Yeah.
Which we obviously need to touch on, but like the moon's not the one that's going to be hard for Fuuko to love. We know that.
No, that will be easy peasy lemon squeezy. Ugh. Okay. Well, let's come back to that because there is something there, even if other people are like, move past. That's how you do thinkies. We're doing thinkies out loud and you just get to
The
see it.
problem is we came to this realization at the same time live on air and haven't gotten to think about it, so we're just like, ah!
Okay. So they fix up Fuko's body and then they realize that Andy has to go out. That whole thing was crazy. But that's when I was like saying to you that sometimes things don't feel that crazy. Like when I was watching Andy leave, I was like, yeah, it's fine. And the moon is watching them. And that's an interesting thing. So I feel, but what made me interested in these pages, and I circled some, is that the sky is done in a way that you can see the pixelation within the images.
Yeah.
And then when Andy starts talking about things out loud in front of the moon, the sky gets more pixelated and the pixels grow bigger. So it's almost like just like an open net, which I thought was really interesting because the sky goes from looking like a regular sky when they come out to suddenly looking pixelated and more game like. That blood
Interesting.
bike was PS disgusting. It's amazing how many things in this manga are just gross and you have to just not think about it.
I mean, it feels wild that Unburn suddenly exists as a character.
Yeah.
Because that dude was not a character before now.
Okay. The character of the sick little girl was super interesting. I like that, as I said before, I like that she was already seeing the potential of the book being an ability for her to be able to fly and think of the best things and kind of astroplane prior to souls even being able to be separated in a ghost-like fashion. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Lucy's character here is very fun. I like her doing her best to help and find joy, teaching Andy how to control his soul. It did feel a little weird to be like, hey, Andy's short a girl to talk to. Let's throw a girl on this bike.
Yeah, but I'm glad we finally got a little girl because I feel like there was a little boy or two that we had already, so I was happy with the little girl.
That's true.
And that floaty thing that went through the sky was a nasty basty, the thirsty, and it made me really wonder because you were able to use thirsty and get rid of thirst by killing it. And we
Yeah.
saw the impact that it had to kill all the different Umas and being like, F that shit and just kill it. And so
Yeah.
I was like, well, then why are you able to slice yourself if you got rid of the slice dude?
Why are you cutting yourself? I don't think it's just an error and a joke they're pointing out that magma still
No,
existed. I think God was breaking the rules there. I think God was keeping the world together. Like God sent the Uma to protect and was like, no one will fuck with all these. And when Andy started killing them, God started cheating. Like I think God was actually cheating
and
at the
that's what I think too. I think her being sick is good because I love the idea that you're able to see that she's inside of Sealed because Seal is sneezing. So that was the perfect thing for this character. I still think he shouldn't be able to cut himself though.
Yeah, what was it Foucault said? Oh, the details don't matter. No, the details mattered. The
No, they
details.
matter. Because if I kill this Uma, then thirst will go away. Oh, I killed it. No more thirst. Okay, I'm going to kill the one that's slice. Oh, I can still slice myself.
It's fucked up.
Okay, so I think that this was really trying to tell us something. When we get into chapter 101 and we're looking at the beginning of it, get out of here. And it says, can you imagine a world without stars? Well, yeah, we just did this. We just had a world without stars. And then it goes on about stars for a while. A place where the word for star, commonplace star-shaped symbols, or anything related to stars or celestial bodies does not exist, nor do constellations, the mythos derived from them, or even the concept of naming the days of the week. With the Earth being the only planet around, the notion of extraterrestrial life never came to be. Up until Uma Galaxy was added, those were the rules of this world. So I stared at that page for longer than I should have. And then it said, and now Uma Thirst just died. Umas are the rules themselves. The death of the Uma means, as of this very moment, the phenomenon of thirst itself has been wiped off the face of the earth. And then right after telling us that, they allowed the phenomena of things that have been wiped off the face of the earth to exist. It matters.
Yeah. God's cheating.
There's cheating taking place.
Ugh. Son, why are you cheating? Although it was right after Seal was created as a regulator, so maybe Seal sealed the state of the world.
I don't.
Seal was a regulator, not just a rule. So maybe Seal's existence was keeping the world together, was keeping Seal is things staying together. Seal is things staying contained and like preserved, right? That's its job. So maybe it's the creation of Seal.
Maybe. I don't hate it as a
Only
concept.
after Seal that started to be the case.
I don't know if it's accurate, but I at least like it as an attempt to answer the question and not pretend that it doesn't matter, because that's ridiculous. Okay, we're moving ahead anyways. Why? You got to move ahead, friend. Could you believe though? Let's just have a little light applause, a little golf clappy moment, if you will. For Andy being like, oh, you think that I can only fight this one dude because I have one body? That's ridiculous. I'm going to separate my bones, my blood, and my muscles into 3 different bodies and fight with him.
His fucking skin.
Yeah, it was so gross, yet so good. And the little girl is just sitting there being like, yeah, it's totally normal that I'm watching someone split their being into 3 separate parts, blood, skin, bones. Yeah, I was like, oh, Jesus, God, so gross. And that he sent the right ones after each of them because he paired his abilities with their abilities. Okay, so when Juice goes back out and she says, he's really pulling out all the stops. So you finally found something. Figure out which Umas are gone based on the new changes, then locate Umas capable of covering the loss and capture them. And don't forget to share this information with non-negator staff. Yes, ma'am. And then she goes back up. Boom! Time to talk to Luna. And she goes, well, this is a first. You contacting me? Regulations will be enacted. And they talk about how Undead has incurred God's wrath, which is when I think, but we were already seeing that his killing of the Umas wasn't changing things. So that's not just it.
Well, but it could be because we don't know if God's created the regulator before we were told about it. Like we don't know the order there.
We don't fully, because this could be happening simultaneously,
Yes,
but
that's what I'm saying.
He did kill Gravity and not immediately start being light as a feather.
My thought is I think Seal was created after the killing of Thirst.
I think it could also be that the minute that he killed things, that God started cheating already and was
Could be.
no. But I love how God is screaming, this is unacceptable. Does he not realize how many resources it will take to utilize other rules to make up for the rules lost? I will enact regulations on undead. I love the way that he is enacting the speech of God through that vengeful typing and the dialogue circles. I think that's just such a brilliant way to show like the wrathful anger of the gods. That's an interesting question that Ray's asks. What if the reason the rules exist after the Umas is they still have an existence of a ghost?
No.
I don't hate that.
That kind of makes sense. Ghost wasn't dead yet.
Yeah. I think that Seal what kind of made you feel that whole Eden thing because of the idea of the snake being sealed down?
The snake being sealed down was something I thought of a little after I started to think about Eden, but I can't remember what exactly prompted me to think about the Garden of Eden. Oh, it was just thinking of Clothy. Looking at Clothy, I was when Clothy talked about insects, I was reminded Clothy exists, and I was like, why the fuck does clothes need an Uma? And I started to think, and I was like, oh yeah, Garden of Eden, that makes total sense. And then when we saw the snake being sealed by Seal in the past, and then talking about that's how you trap undead, that's what got me to start thinking about undead maybe being the snake, which could make sense because some depictions have the snake and Satan being separate entities, that the snake is a servant of Satan, not as Satan himself. So if he was a servant of Moon, of Luna, that could make sense.
Yep, I agree.
You end up thinking of the animal seal when you talk about seal. Well, we're not. We're talking about the Pokemon seal. So keep up.
I also really think that seal is dumb as a concept usually. And when I saw them do it, I was like, I love the way that they've shown it. Like, I wouldn't have seen it for the breadth that it has. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would have been like, seal. And then I started to think about how many different things in movies and books talk about sealing in the dead, putting a seal over something to keep back all the bad that was in the world and to hide it behind closed doors, and broken seals on jars that have released ghosts and other bad things into the world. And I was like, you know what, you can actually see that they are just using a concept that we have as an existing thing, that you can seal the evil inside of things or the things that do poorly for the world. So it would make sense that that's actually an ability that would work. There is 2 copy abilities in the series, which I'm glad that Seal's copy ability has more understanding, but there's also 2 undead abilities in this as well.
Just one works slightly differently and seemingly worse because motherfucker, sorry, you don't make it. We know the end of the story and it ain't you.
It isn't the story of a sad, lonely vampire.
No, weird
Oh,
wannabe vampire.
I thought it was going to be the story of a sad, lonely vampire. I'm kind of disappointed, if I'm going to be honest.
Tragic for you.
Also, I'm pissed off that Seal's a boy.
Yeah, Seal really had Lady Gaga energy, huh?
Yeah, I'm really angry about it because it looks so much like Poker Face. Plus, look at the beautiful hips, which
Yep.
don't lie,
Yep.
and that stunning Lady Gaga haircut.
Let's be real though, this series is very gender. So we regularly get characters who are not the gender we're assuming they are.
Agreed. And Seal also has the sun on her chest, which should have made us notice, but we didn't have the time normally that we would spend. But the sun on the chest was the
Well, I
same as
noticed
the
the sun on
sun.
the chest, and they were talking about being the chosen ones.
But did you notice the things on their chest that say the different words? Bomb?
That's why Unruin was able to tell that he had Andy, right?
Yes, but that's the same thing that's on what's his face's head.
Who?
What's the dude who was put inside of the
Oh, Monkey Man.
Shen? Thank you.
Shen is his name, yeah.
But that's what Shen has on his head.
Does he? Okay. Oh, a little tile. Yeah, he's got a little tile. Yeah.
That's a type of
Just
like seal. So
up.
that thing on his head, then it's a seal that seals him into the instrument that that person now uses, like a talisman. So it's showing that rules on this planet all work the same way. Like the author is trying to make it stand out. This is Seal. Notice the things that Seal has inside of them. They have sealed them, and now they have these floaty, weird things that show us that they've been sealed inside. Notice Shen. Shen has been sealed inside of this thing. Notice how they are done in the exact same way. You must have this to know something has been sealed. It allows us that whenever we see that, we now know that that is an embodiment of seal. We don't even have to question it. We just know.
I didn't think about that. That makes sense. I like that.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. Like when we talk about how you can trust this author, you can trust the author because they use the systems that they use in everything. And so if they tell us something, then it must be so, or it's pointing out something that's wrong.
I have a theory.
Are you talking about the tattoos and the undead?
I'm looking at his tattoos.
Because I am also looking at his tattoos. So why are you looking at his tattoos? Pardon?
Well, I just had a question about it because 1865.
That's when he first comes out, isn't it? Before that, he said that's when he first remembered existing.
Is that the like save file? Is this here because of memory? Like that's the start of the new file is 1865 dead end because we've given up on the previous version?
That's a great question.
Like, is this the title of his save file? Like when you go to like open something and open a video game file and it has like a little boop type name, is that it? Is that what we're looking at?
Dude, it could be, because the tattoos are literally, aka sealed into his soul, seared into his soul. They're attached to the very piece of his being. And if the thing in his head is doing that, his memory card is doing that, and it's the date that Andy is first created, then maybe that is Andy is more permanent, which is shown through this tattoo.
You know, people are saying his first memory, but did he get the tattoo? Because why is it on him? So why does it come back?
Yeah,
Why
we've
go
never
back?
there's no memory of him getting a tattoo, it just exists. I don't know, I like your idea, because that's also a different type of seal.
Hmm.
I love how deeply under the skin of the Uma seal Andy gets by
Mhm,
saying, the insolent remark.
mhm.
Where did it go? And then they say, oops, sorry, silly me. I almost forgot that you can't be sealed unless you're entirely wrapped up. Then again, I'd hate to miss my chance to search for the human core. Where is your core? I'm just trying to figure out, where is his core?
I mean, he doesn't have one. He can regenerate from everywhere because Foucault replaced his conception
I
of how he works.
understand that. I
His head
understand
used to
that.
be the core of himself. Yeah.
I agree. But now is it a moving thing?
Guys, they've done something fucky on us to hide the tattoo. I went back to check. When he pops up from his grave, he's wearing a shirt so we can't see his chest. But the very first time we can see him, we do see him with the tattoo already. With the "I took to the battlefield," so they leave it ambiguous very intentionally if he got it right away after waking up or if he woke up with it.
I think as soon as that thing was put in his head, it happened, and I think it's linked to his soul. And I think that's why there can be two Andys that can move back and forth, because he's a real Andy. He exists. Sorry, and
Mhm.
then there's Victor. And I think Victor is an entirely different person. It's like you have two full entities in the same body that are both sharing the same ability.
Yeah, no. Foucault says his tattoos and the crew confirmed them. I know he had them back in time, but we don't know if he woke up with them. That's what's ambiguous. We know he had them in the past.
It's attached to his soul.
All right.
It needs to be so that that Andy and Victor can share a body and be two different humans. They're not just two different personalities. They're two different people.
Okay. All right. Let's keep moving. Sorry. I just wanted to go check.
No, I'm not going to move now. That's where I am forever. Don't know what to
Okay.
tell
You're
you.
stuck here now. Well,
I really like that Vampire Face has the same tattoo as
Lord Gaga.
Zong yeah, as Lord Gaga. But more importantly, they both have tattoos that were given to them by, I don't know, God.
I mean, it is God's symbology, and they both worship and were chosen by God. So yeah.
Ovs. So God gave them tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go forward in time, and I gotta try and get rid of this vampire. Piss off, vampire.
Unruin is such a bastard.
I'm not a big fan of Unruin.
Fucking getting to work with Uma Blood and Uma Shadow so that he gets to do cool shit. Fucking, I don't know. Get over yourself. You know what Uma Andy has working with him? Clothing.
You know what we need to talk about? Why are you so much older? It's a petty dream, if I do say so
Ugh,
myself.
God, that's it. It's so beautiful and sad.
Oh, are you shitting my face right now? Is your dream seriously to grow old? Is it
Yep.
seriously to finally be able to love and live and have a full life where you end up old?
Yep.
Oh, my whole heart, my crying, my crying. Oh, it was just, no words. I was so mad about that part because I actually felt like tearsy. Which part did you say made you weepsy?
We'll get there. It's at the very end.
So she teaches him the thing, and once he realizes that he just uses that beautiful thought, he can just make an old Andy in order to move forward and have a perfect dream. Ugh.
There is something interesting about what Foucault says later about how hardship brought them together, and the world without hardship wouldn't be good. With what people are pointing out here, that Lucy's ability to control her soul comes from living a terrible, unhealthy life where she's not safe and needing escapism. She is more able and ready to seek out a life beyond the one she has and more able to imagine it because escapism is something she's needed. And then Fuuko later talks about how everyone is who they are because of their suffering. This is played on a lot in this arc.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
It comes
And
up in another way later too.
there's only one of any given person. But mums are special. Don't you get that? No, I don't. Parents, lovers, companions, siblings. The rules humans create are always so unclear, unfair, unsettling, and unintelligible.
I mean, they say what you will, bud, but you want to talk about unfair, you're going to meet him later.
I love how everything is better because Rip comes and we're like, oh, it's Rip. Rip is here. I'm
Rip's
so
going to
happy.
help us.
Rip is gonna help us, right, Rip? You're such a helpful boy. And then Rip is like, yeah.
The Rip fight made me have a realization that I find very beautiful, which is this is a series that because we need to come to love every character, fights are always going to be sad from here on out when they end because they just like with the death of Spring, it's not happy that Rip is defeated. It's nice that Rip's come to give his dream to someone else and believe that this can be fixed. That's nice, but like what's not nice is Rip losing. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's really interesting that they named him Rip because I really feel like Rip would like to die, but Rip would like to die knowing that he did the thing that he needed to do for love. So it's almost like Rip's name, Rest in Peace, is like also his dream.
Yeah.
And that's kind of brutal.
I think there's this beautiful texture that, from what I can tell, his power didn't activate when he started the surgery, and it seems like the surgery was successful and it activated while he was suturing her closed. So those tiny wounds from suturing weren't able to heal. Like the cut, all of the other cutting did, and then the suturing, the act of healing and putting back together, the final moment of kindness is what wouldn't heal. That's so much the fuck more brutal than if his power had activated at the beginning of surgery and she just died. That's a way to make it so much more impactful than what I was expecting. Yeah, the last repair, the last act of every other act of surgery, while healing can be seen as like an attack, but the last act that is just repair, pure repair, is when unrepair activated.
So you can actually see how God is intentionally being a prick and doing things for enjoyment and
Yep.
using people.
Mhm.
Because having Rip gain his power in that moment is like, how can we make this the worst thing ever?
I thought it would
Oh,
just be the surgery. I thought he'd go to do the surgery and she'd die. So much worse.
yeah. And so that's why we know that God is the worst one.
And yet Fuuko needs to come to love him.
I really look forward to the story where Fuuko comes to love him. And I think that's one of the things that's very comparable between Fuuko and Luffy is that Luffy comes to love a lot of characters that are not really traditionally able to be loved. And Luffy finds the things about them that make them worth loving or being quote unquote friends. I mean, he's basically saying loving, but it's going to be very interesting to see how that's done in the case of Fuuko now.
And Fuuko, unlike Luffy, can't come to hate people either because we've kind of touched on this arc that Fuuko's inability to feel hatred, like how much she doesn't want to hate people, is so her strength and is so what changes people, especially because so many of these abilities are based off of hatred and love. Like, can we move on to that now? Because the fight happens, we know how it ends. And then after Rip is destroyed, we get the fight at the Onion and we learn about Billy's power unfair and how it works, and finding out that the reason that he couldn't copy Fuuko's power was that she couldn't hate him is beautiful.
Wait, yes, but wait,
Well,
let's
Nico
talk about
versus
that
Andy
in a minute.
happens in a
First,
second. This
first, when Rip says, and I quote, hand them over, I want your points, all of them. I'm going to ride the arc and repair Leela one more time.
mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, why does he need all the points? He just needs to be the highest. Is
Yeah.
he saying that he wanted Victor's points or that he wanted Andy's points?
What a great question. I mean, If Andy doesn't have a seat at the union, or if Victor doesn't, then I guess he only needs Andy's points.
That doesn't make sense. Andy didn't have that many points. They talk about that later.
That's true. Andy doesn't have a lot of points.
Yeah, exactly.
Rip might not know about Victor, someone's pointing out. That actually makes sense too. Rip doesn't really know everything that's happening, to be honest.
Yeah, but no, he must know about Victor. Because otherwise, why is he asking just for frickin' Andy's points, which are not going to be that great?
Yeah, but Nico happens after Unfair. We can talk about Unfair before Nico.
All right, now say your thing again and go ahead.
So Unfair, I love how this power works in this final reveal, because showing off why he wasn't able to get access to Fuuko's power was because Fuuko couldn't bring herself to hate him and was trying her best to find empathy. And that once again, that's how she convinces someone. Like, he was like, no, it needs to be you, because she's such a kind person and so capable of seeing the good in people that nothing could make her hate Billy. And that's what convinces Billy that she's going to be able to do this, that her powers will be able to touch God. It's beautiful. I love it. It's just wonderful.
It's also terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And he also was forced to see her in a lot of different ways because Andy took her
Mm-hmm.
up. So he's seen her fighting off Spring. He's
Yeah.
seen her holding Spring while Spring died and feeling great empathy for Spring.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's all sorts of things that he saw, but I
So,
think in the end that you're right, that he sees himself as being the least lovable, and yet she was able to see the good in him. What's the name of the chick who's the sister of the chick who dies? Latla. She is my new saddest creature.
yeah, that she's just in love with the guy
And
who's
we
in love
know
with her
this all
sister, her
along, but
dead sister.
no, we know this all along, but you got to imagine it a little more because I think that people overshadow it and that they don't just stop for a minute and think that all this time she just sits there helping to have retribution for her sister dying and trying to help her sister even though the man she loves is in love with her sister. And then she says she doesn't hit on him. They don't smash faces once she's dead. And then she goes, "You're always like this. You always make decisions on your own and you always take things upon yourself. You always try to keep me from getting involved. When you cut your legs off because you said it would make you stronger, we joined under. Even back when we fought on Autumn, you tried to leave me behind. If it's okay for you to risk your life for the person you love, then let me do the same for you. Let me put my life on the line for you at the very least." That
Yeah.
crushed me. Like, that crushed me to think of how hard she had to hold back all that love because she knew that, yeah, they kissed during Spring, but that was nothing. Like the
Yeah.
idea of her sister's gone. Both of them are just living for the death of her sister. Both of them. And at
Mm-hmm.
no point do they stop to say, like, we have this life here now and this love here now. No.
I think his folly of becoming obsessed with this one person who's already died is then played again with Nico, where his entire life is consumed by the inability to move on, where he couldn't even be a good father because he didn't want to let something else in, that because of his powers he'd remember better and replace her. So he becomes this miserable man stuck on the fading memories he has from before he became unforgettable. It's very much the same as Rip, of a person who has been unable to recognize the love they could have and appreciate the love around them because they're stuck on one thing that they loved, on one person they loved, and nothing else matters. They can't let anything else matter, or it feels like a betrayal of that. And it's destroying the people around them.
Which is even why sucky vampire dude's speech, that's the reason I was reading it off. It
Mhm.
becomes more relevant. The entire world is at risk of blowing up. Everybody's lives are at risk of being gone. One mother, one father, one sister, one brother, one lover is what he's saying doesn't matter. Like, look at the entire world, and you are going to have retribution for this one person and put everybody else at risk because you can't see that you need to put that aside so you can think about how to keep the world moving past, because he would never want to just redo a loop and have the world saved if she didn't live in it. He would rather continue to do the loops forever until she was in it. And so then how do you get everybody on side? Because I think you kind of have to. So Fuko's gonna have this huge thing because you kinda have to have everybody on side so they don't do stupid side quests when they're like, "I get that we're trying to save the world, but I kinda have to save this one person." And everyone is like, "Yeah, well, go into the sun, you dumbass." And they're like, "Okay, but, like, this one person," which is weak ass. Like, I love you with my entire heart, soul. I would do anything. I would give up my life, etc., for you because I'm what's called a parent. But am I going to make it if the world can never live again because I'm going to fixate on just bringing you back? Probably not, because I don't imagine that that would make you happy.
No, that's not how you want anyone to live if you die.
Yeah.
The obsession and inability to accept what's there and move on. It's interesting. We have heroes who want death. We have a hero who starts suicidal and a hero who's lived too long who hasn't been able to die. And so many of the folly characters are those who can't move on, those who can't continue to live a life and appreciate what they have, and who, importantly to Foucault's message, can't just understand that by living happily and remembering people, they are carrying them on with them and making their life worthwhile. The folly of people so often in this series is being stuck and not accepting death and moving past it. To go back to our pre-video that we're talking to One Piece fans, this is writing better on the someone only dies when they're forgotten better than One Piece because so much of the series is built around this one theme and so many characters are built to explore it.
The entire series is built around that theme because then none of them can accept death. None of them can accept the death of a single loved one. And then the hero is the person who doesn't die.
Mm-hmm.
He and the person with the bad luck, and everyone has to put their faith because he's the one that keeps coming back no matter what. He doesn't even have to ride a goddamn arc in the one thing that they can't accept.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that he makes exist,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
which is
so beautiful.
wild, a wild way to do that.
Ties into another theme this arc about your hardships make you because I now think about Fuko and how of course she has a belief that you have to live on carrying the people you remember because she hasn't been able to have anything else but the her memories. So carrying on the people she's killed with her power by remembering them is something that she's had to believe and had to believe in as valuable.
Yeah, but there is more to her. There's some, and I agree. Like, you've just started the conversation on this, but there's something about her that is even more special. Like, luck shouldn't be that big of a concept. It's the same thing as seal, that idea that I'm saying that these things shouldn't be the things that are so big. Like, if somebody said love and gravity and death, I'm like, yeah, those all make sense. Those should all be things we talk about. Hatred, etc., etc. But luck,
I mean,
and luck talks
but
about
remember,
luck.
the negators aren't meant to explore what it means to have something, but what it means to not have it. And
I
complete
agree,
lack of luck
but that
makes
really
sense
talks
being negated.
about how much this person wants to talk about fate versus happenstance, and how things are very random, because that's what luck is. Luck is just very random.
I mean, something we talked about before streaming today is I think at the end of the series, because it has to be the ultimate luck and the ultimate death, and the ultimate death is an ending. I brought up that at a museum once, you remember saying, it was not a time I was traveling with you, it was when you were in Europe on a school trip. You looked at a beautiful painting and said, they're so lucky. And people were like, well, why is that? Because like they had the skill, it wasn't luck. And you were like, well, imagine having something this beautiful trapped in your head and having the ability to get it out. I feel the same way about a lot of art. And I think the greatest luck you could get, and why I think the end of the series is the end of the series, is because that is the death of this world, is for it to end. But it gets to be a beautiful end and the end they want. And the luck is having the opportunity to tell the story you want to tell and get it out. I think the opportunity to be published in Shonen Jump and finish a story does feel lucky. Now, that said, I don't think it's to be Ragnarok. I think Fuko is going to get what Fuko wants, which is a life
Ugh,
where everybody gets to
all
be
you've
human.
done is crushed my soul more. Like, now all I want for this author is for them to get to finish it so that it is the way that they want it to be, and not a forced ending where they're just trying to give us all a thing to hang on because
Hmm.
they need to end something. And so, like, because yeah, the idea of having something like that trapped in your head and being able to actually have the skill to put it out, like, it does make me feel lucky. Same with, I have full um operas in my head and full concerts in my head, and I don't have the skill to get them out, and I feel trapped with it sometimes. And to think that this person has this story and has gone this far, and they could have it pulled from them and have the unluck of not getting to finish it the way that they want to. Oh, that's crushing. Let's go back in and continue to crush our souls. Let's go make ourselves unhappy. Hey, follow me, gang. Let's go to the future where things are sadder.
Yeah. So we get to the chair. Should we get to the table and the chair, or what? What's up?
Yeah, let's do that. Um, when she first sits down and and she realizes and everyone's going to have to and she's like, "Okay, I guess we're going to do this thing." And it seemed like such a big deal to get her there. And you got to know because you've met the dude before and you know how he does shit that that's not going to be the, "Oh, science is a god against war." Against or science is a war against God. That's got to come up later, not now. That's got to come up in our thinking later about the moon being lonely. Um, and and you're like, "Oh my god, we made it. She's gonna be there, and everyone has agreed that she's gonna be there. That's amazing. Okay, now she's gonna ride through. What is that gonna look like?" And then to have it be that that now she has to sit there and just watch and not be allowed to move while everybody is fighting for her, and she just sits there like a big fat hairy spider and has to watch everyone fight and die so that she can make it through the loop. That's
Yep.
that's a special kind of bullshit.
It's it's awful, but I do feel happy for Juice that this is the first time she's ever gotten to do this. That she's always been the one people have to fight and die for, and she gets to be out there this time.
Instead of being happy for Juice, I felt like, um, "How you like me now, Victor?" Like, I just felt like you keep trying to kill Juice and take this decision on for yourself, which I think is the ultimate in being a non-partner, that you
Mhm.
just want you've decided what is best for your partner, even though they are telling you with their words what is best for themselves, and you're just like, but what about I kill you because you just need to get to die?" She's like, "No, I'm legitimately trying to do what I think is the right thing right now, and you need to just shut your stupid face and let me actually have the agency of my own life." So
Mhm.
when Juice dies and Victor has to sit in the pain of her death and
And
eat
for the first time in
for the
billions of
first
years of
time
suffering,
in
being
billions of years,
alone.
yeah, in his hands and just live in that hellscape, I was like, "You earned that, buddy. You absolutely earned that."
The
And
glee that Moon has in the weapons being used is so interesting.
oh, it is way too interesting. Like, why does Luna want Soul killed so badly?
Killed, beaten, matched. The fact that Rebellion, so two things about Rebellion, it's a weapon that is a book, and again tied to Luna with books,
Yeah.
but then and the fact that it's fueled by hatred, while we have fueled by love as the real weapon we think can kill God with Fuuko.
Yes. Yes.
I wonder if Sun and Moon can exist without each other. Hear me out on something.
Do you think that they can be blended into one, or do
No,
you think they must have each
I
other?
what if the way we kill Sun is by having Fuuko go to the Ark and go to the moon to meet with Luna and talk with Luna and touch Luna.
Give Luna unluck and kill Sun through the destruction.
Or make Sun be alone. Make Sun go through what Victor went through when Juice actually died.
Except for Moon is already lonely, so why would Sun not be lonely? If Luna
mean,
is lonely, why isn't Soul?
maybe Soul is, but it's like Victor, just convinced, he's so convinced about being right that isn't acknowledging the pain.
Huh. I mean, maybe.
Maybe that's just how Fuuko's going to be able to get Sun to open up and converse, is that pain.
Except for that by the time that they do that, then if Sun is just in pain, what good is that gonna serve?
I don't know. I think it's possible though.
Everyone's obsessed with Nico. If you want to talk about him, we can in a minute. He kind of pissed me off, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, fucking prick. We talked about Nico. Well, you were all there. Just because we didn't talk about him enough for your satisfaction doesn't mean he wasn't talked about.
He kind of pissed me off. Like, am I
I
happy
love the
that he
love
had this?
story.
Am I happy that he had this person in his life? Yes, but I liked his wife way more than him.
Yep, she was cool.
You
Love a
know,
lady
like
scientist.
she again was this awesome badass, and she had to deal with his like stupid moods and bitchiness, and I was like, ugh, you're so cringy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Nico, his story is very sad. We talked about how it works thematically. I think this author is getting better over time at having these sudden backstories come up without it feeling like it derails what's happening and like we're just learning about it for the sake of something to be sad. Like it's just feeling more deft each time we get a backstory.
It really is.
How
And
Wrath
Wrath
of God
Revenge
is.
is right in that Unforgettable was a super sick reveal, the way that it was revealed.
Yeah, I had already kind of thought that earlier in this arc. I started to be like, oh, Nico might have a similar power to Vegapunk, and that's why he's able to be such a good scientist.
But the thing that I really liked about it is that he said, "No, you don't remember it. You remember an idea or a feeling or an emotion
Yes,
around it. You don't remember the size of the tear or the shape."
yes,
And
that's
then said all
fucking
those other details,
beautiful.
and that's what the cool reveal was.
Yeah, it was revealed in a very cool way.
Because even people who have like perfect memories aren't going to say like, "I remember the shape of the tear."
I often think about an interview I read with a woman who has an eidetic memory, and she's like, "You don't understand how lucky you are to forget, because when you have a breakup, your brain is able to make you not remember how much love and devotion you felt and how certain you felt that this was perfect. I don't have that. I have to know all of the feelings that I have had, and it makes everything else feel cheap."
Ew.
Yeah, forgetting is a grace, and that interview made me realize that in a brutal way.
I think you have the right level of memory.
It's not terrible. I can remember enough to not suffer. Yeah.
No, you have an excellent memory, like an absolutely freaking spectacular memory, but you don't remember the shape of the deer.
Yeah, I will agree that the description of being crushed under the weight of ever-present experience of everything is brutal, and the fact that like the memories of his wife have to fade, and it's only after as she was dying that it activated. Again, God
Exactly.
being a prick for no good reason.
Exactly. And it's just letting us hate God in a lot of different ways, which makes us want to be, which always also makes us really question, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Go to page 12 of 19 in chapter 129. The reason that I'm looking at it, the reason that I'm looking at it the way that I'm looking at it is
Uh-huh.
because Um, I just recently I got a book from a colleague of mine who has written 25 novels, like, shout out, babe, you rock. And she gave me, corner protectors for the book. They're metal corner protectors that you put on so that it doesn't damage the book.
And they look like
And
the little
then
union logos on the tips.
and I was like, "Oh, they look just like those little things on the tips." And then I slightly shifted the perspective of the shield and realized that if you press that middle down, and right now the shield is bulging out, that is a folded piece of paper. That is a book
So we
page.
continue with Luna having book themes because we have
And
Apocalypse, we have the pen, we have the sword that's a book, and we
yes,
have this that you're right. is it looks like a distorted, bent out of shape page or
It's
book.
it
It
it's
really
not
does.
even, it's just folded, because if you look at it and you realize that it's three-dimensional, it comes up into the center because of the different ways that it's folded, that if you
Yeah.
flattened it out, it would be a flat
The
page.
lower tip
And
still feels too long for me, but it very, very much feels like a book.
and remember when I told you that the name of that weapon was taken off of the thing, the skin of the thing that created Zeus, created the god, and
This would be
he
the
created
skin of a book.
the skin of a book.
Oh, what? That's kind of I yeah. Yeah, that's
Take a
interesting.
look at it.
Imagine a book and you fold it outwards so that the four corners put a metal protector on the corners like it's a fancy book. So now we get to where I cry.
To do to see it, PS guys, is just turn the page a little bit sideways. Imagine you press the center down in that, and suddenly it becomes a big book page that's been folded in a way so that it bulges out three-dimensional and looks like a shield. You'll also notice that there's some transparency along the edges, almost like a vellum or a thin part, and then a book part.
So I want to briefly touch on something now, which is the part that made me cry.
Okay, go ahead.
The reveal that Akira was there the entire time and showing this person patiently watching the end of the world, unable to help, but appreciating their heroes was actually beautiful.
Oh, I
I
agree.
I teared up. It is like I've said, I tear up from anime a lot because it has music and voice acting and all that. I don't tear up reading manga that often. I feel deep emotion, but I don't cry that often, right?
Yeah.
I was crying. I started to cry for that. It was so sad and beautiful, and the hopeful smile of like, you guys did it. You did everything you could. You saved Fuuko. Next time I hope you win. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. It touched me in such a deep way.
Okay, before you go on, I think we really need to do this, because I think we do, because we'll talk about the sad thing after. Chapter 129, page 19. It's the one where he's holding the shield in front of Victor's body as Juice moves in with the giant sword towards the sun.
I'm telling you, this part stretched out. I'm telling you, if this were a paper, this doesn't fit. This
I'm
part is
looking
stretched
at it
out.
right now, and I know a fold. Do you see the way that it's
This,
tri-folded
yeah,
on the left and
these
right?
folds, if you flatten it out, are straight. If you straighten it out, I think it looks like this. Like, I don't think this last bit
I
fits
don't know.
properly.
In my universe, when I've done a fold, I've made something that's looked
This
just
last
like
bit
that.
is way too stretched out.
But look at the trifolds on the left and right. If you fold
Yeah, I
them out
know.
different, it'll straighten.
Not this part, because look, this part objectively has extra points. See, up here it goes straight from the triangles. These all go straight from the triangle, whereas this goes out and then has extra corners, so it can't be.
That
Like
goes
it
in
needs
and
to be
that goes in.
distorted. There,
I don't
you
know.
can't have extra corners like that and have it
I
be.
still think that it looks like it is literally
Oh,
a
I.
page.
It does look like it looks like a book that's been bent out or a page. Like it
Yeah.
definitely still looks like it.
Keep in keep in mind that a book is a rectangle, not a square.
I'm aware. I'm saying one corner can't have
I
extra.
do agree that there's one extra part there, but I think that
Yeah.
this is a thing that's trying to show us that it's made out of the skin of something that created God, and that looks like a book
Wait,
or
wait,
a
wait. Wait, wait, wait.
page.
So this wouldn't be God the author. This would be gods created by the
God's
author.
created.
Interesting.
So it wouldn't be that God is the author necessarily then. This would be like with Zeus, the thing that raised or created or helped them live or get stronger. God still could be the author, but the thing
Yeah.
that got them stronger and made them live would be this book.
We'll see.
And then,
Uh,
hear me
yeah,
out,
yeah.
the memory card, the shield, and the Ragnarok book are all different types of books or memory keepers
Yeah.
that are the only reason the world can still continue to exist over and over again, is because you have multiple facets that keep the record of the world.
Hmm.
I loved that we knew that Jews had to sit in that seat over and over again and watch all of the people die. I love that Luna told Fuuko that this is a thing that Jews had to watch over and over again, and that this is what she did. that all these feelings of sadness were the exact same things that passed through Juice. But it also made me realize that the moon is definitely uh, a lot more on the side of the humans than we're being led to believe, because the moon is literally saying, yeah, I feel this way because I'm going to tell you about her emotions and how she felt so you don't feel alone in your emotions right now. The way
Yeah.
you did a minute ago, where I walked away because I was paying
Although people
attention to
are
a book
pointing out
cover.
that Foucault does say you're no different about Luna and God, Luna and Sun. So like has an opinion that Luna is not like this good divine entity. But is that just because Luna thinks hatred is the path to power? Like made a
Exactly.
sword fueled by hatred instead of it's interesting. It's difficult.
Yeah. For 455.4 billion years, you've been right there alive and by my side, so it never clicked. One by one by one, they all grew stronger, so they would never lose this warmth. For me, end of the road, huh? For us. What gives us strength, what pushed us to live, what shaped us and held us together has always been this feeling that we gain from those that we hold dear. I learned that far too late.
Aw.
So that's the thing that is going to hold everyone together. It has to be this feeling. It has to be
Even
through love.
even hatred, which is powerful and fuels the rebellion, comes from love.
Exactly. Because when he says crush arc can shape the world that you desire, then instead they all pull together in love for each other. The hate isn't the opposite of love. They use the love they have to fuel the hate to its maximum for the love of each other, so that
Mhm.
Foucault can survive and Foucault can be the one that takes everything on, so their loved ones and the people that mean so much to them have a chance, so that the earth can come back. And so Foucault really means it when she says, you just don't understand. But the moon kind of does understand, whether she realizes it or they realize it or not, because they comfort Foucault. Oh, talk about sad though. Chapter 132, Time
Yeah.
to Go loop, where Foucault's standing out in the foreground, waving goodbye to all of her friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we ready? Are we ready to do closing segments?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Welcome to
Are
101
we? I'm
Academy.
trying to
Hey,
remember
welcome to
all the things
101
we
me.
do here.
Is
Number
it next
one.
episode 101? Number one. Let's do favorite minor characters. We know we do that one. That's the one we know we do for sure.
Okay, well, in this one, the minor
We
character
don't have
was
we don't
Akira.
have- we don't have a lot of minor characters, but yeah, it's Akira. That's the best minor character.
And that
Yeah,
is obviously the best minor character. And if anyone
yeah.
disagrees, then they weren't
Agree.
reading the same manga as me.
Yeah. Congratulations on your mental illness. Go see a doctor if Akira is not your favorite minor character here.
Hey, Lucy wasn't that minor.
Lucy wasn't minor enough to be a minor character. Sorry.
Okay, let's talk about our favorite characters in this realm and why number one is
I mean,
Fuko again.
well, S tier is Fuko. They're separate. They
I
get their
know,
own
that's
scoring.
why we're pulling her out. So
We're
I think
pulling
she's
her
an
out.
S plus.
This is S plus. This is Fuko. Fuko at her best so far. Fuko keeps
This
getting
is
better.
full
And it's
Fuko-onio,
crazy because Fuko's barely in this segment and she's the best character.
and she's just so good.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, no, Fuko, it's you. High five to your face, you rock. Hello, YouTube.
Yo.
You should subscribe. It's meaningful to us, and press
Yeah.
like. Then other
Yeah.
people can see it. And I think that if you're a person who likes Undead Unluck and you would like to see more people like on Undead Unluck, then press subscribe, press like,
Do
and
it.
help to jump up the algorithm so that Undead Unluck and us get the attention of others who are also looking for this kind of content. We have a place. It is a Discord. We hang out and chat. People are doing crazy wild things all the time inside a Discord. Sometimes those crazy wild things are building Lego while other people hang out. And sometimes those crazy interesting things are having chit chats or watching videos with us.
Mhm.
And so come join us in our Discord and consider becoming a Patreon. It's how we feed the Drawk and it's how we feed the editors.
True. All of that's real.
Uh, and we love our Patreons. We have the most awesomical Patreons in the entire world.
Okay.
Patreons
Take a
do
second.
things, and you can send mail to Drawk and Mama Drawk, or just Mama Drawk because Drawk is such
Usually
a
just
brat.
Mama Drop.
To P.O. Box 28078
Oh,
Victoria,
we're gonna sing the
RPO,
actual. Okay.
Westshore, BC, Canada, V9B6K8. I put that out there for you.
Uh-huh.
The editors are going to stick it on the page anyways, and you're not going to hear anything I'm saying because Drawk is saying stuff at the same time. And so, meh. This is a special squishy. Oh, you have, and I freaking love this name.
It's a good
Called
name. I'm getting you another one.
This name is Chooch Mahoon. And tell me right now, you just don't want to name your kid Chooch Mahoon now.
Thank you, Chooch Mahoon, for being such a
Oh my
great.
god! These people have the greatest names
Let's make him
ever.
another one, yeah.
Because this person's name is Taco Tuesday.
Thank
It
you,
can-
Taco Tuesday.
so good, Taco Tuesday. I freaking love that. And I want to have a little moment to say thank you to our peeps, our Dr. Jacks, our Red Potatoes, our Tattoo
Oh, yeah.
Luminous, all of our people who come inside of here and help to make these chats so awesome, keep people from saying crazy stuff, and just be really good friends who help out all the time in big ways. We are having so much fun at the Drawk Show. We are so glad to have you here, and we look forward to having you all become part of our family. Oh, and me and my little side hustle crew. We're
Juice side
reading.
crew.
Hey, these are my tiny panda squishies. Me and my tiny panda squishies are going to be reading Witch Hat Atelier together. We're going to be doing it inside of the Discord and having little conversations about it. And our first one is going to be on October 1st. We're just going to have a bit of a conversation up to, I think we decided 15 in the end was enough. Tuesday, October 1st. And we have a time on there. I do not remember the time. And so if you've always wanted to go and read Witch Hat Atelier, we're reading it ahead of Drawk because we're going to be doing Witch
That's
Hat
cool.
Atelier with Drawk. And I wanted to have a thing. It's chapter 17 that Drawk had never read before. That
Witch Hat Atelier is
I got to be the big fish.
the
And
first Witch Hat
soon,
Atelier episode will be the last one we do in October.
yeah, exactly, because we figured we should do witchy things inside. Mama Drawk, would you like to see a GIF I made for the section of reading? Roxanne, hells yeah. And then I have decided that we are going to press up the agenda on when we do Berserk because somebody sent me the first 3 books of Berserk, and I think we should read it sooner than later.
Okay. So Andy, is he on the chart or is he separate? Because if he's separate, I think he gets an S this week. Andy did great.
I would give Andy an S too.
Like it's tempting to be like, should we grade him more harshly? But Andy did amazing.
I'm giving him an S. I feel bad that I'm
Yeah.
only giving him an S, but Andy shares a mind and a body with Victor, and I would give Victor an S plus.
Well, I think Victor isn't on the chart. I think he's his own character. He gets to be in the regular one.
I think he should be number 1.
Ooh, let me think about this. Do I agree with Victor number 1 in this little part?
Do you want me to pop off, or do you want to just think?
Bunny does boil here is the thing. You have to consider the bunny boils.
Come on. Everyone boils. An entire earth shatters into the sun. Everyone is boiled.
All right, tell me about Victor. Tell me why you think he's number 1.
Okay, so Victor had to completely change who he has been for the last few billion years.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
And he popped his mind around what it looked like, what love looked like. And I think the idea of love, since it's going to be so important in the ultimate defeat, is one of the most important things that you can get right in your head. And so I think that Victor literally just made the first step to actually being able to help the team win. And to see love in the way that he needed to, and that love had been corrupted for him from the billions of years he had to spend alone or on the outside and watching the person that he loved be hurt. And in this time, he got it right. He fixed it. And watching a person that he loved die and have to fail in the end, he actually understood what that looks like. And then he used all that rage to give one of the greatest attacks. He is the one that fortified. He is the one that helped put our girl in the chair. I think that he really did the biggest growth here, and I think that his part was you know what though? Can we say a Victor's Juice #1 tie?
I was debating, are they connected enough this time that you think we
I
would
really
think
think
that?
they are because they were separated, and I think the thing that we learned is it was in their coming together that we had to win.
I was debating whether or not to push for it, so I think if you are also feeling like it, let's go for it and say that Victor and Juice get to share the top spot. Kind of feeling Lucy #2.
Oh my god, okay, pop off about this.
When I think about the middle section of story here, the part before we get to final Ragnarok, Lucy feels so important for laying down a lot of the groundwork of the themes. She teaches Andy about the soul. She gives Andy a reason to be interacting with the story in the way he does. And just when I think of who feels most important to this segment of story, that's just who comes to mind after Victor and Juice for me.
You know what? I kind of love that.
Who is
3.
next, do you think? Yeah,
Did you?
3.
It's interesting that you put her at 2. I would put number 3, and I shudder to say this,
Uh-huh.
as Luna.
Luna. Oh, okay.
Because,
I think that's fair. I like it. I
yeah,
like
think
it.
about
Yeah.
the interactions, the movement of the plot forward, the things we find out, the conversations about the emotions that Juice had, the coming in clutch. I think that Luna ends up being number 3.
Rippin' Lot LaFour.
I would agree. Rippin'
Yep.
Cump 4.
So who's number 5? Kind of feeling a bunny #1. Come on. Some opinions, some options. Ruin, Nico, man, Billy. I'm kind of feeling. I'm kind of feeling a Billy 5.
I was just about to say I'm kind of. There is Ichiko.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. No, Nico's wife can be here without him.
Nico doesn't need to be with his wife. I'm really just about Ichiko
Do
and
we
not so much
feel?
about his wife.
Do we feel Billy or Ichiko more? Who do
I
we feel?
feel, if I'm going to be honest with you, I would say an Ichiko is an honorable mention.
That's kind of how I'm feeling. She's like the close number 6, and I think it's Billy. I think Billy adds a lot in this part.
I loved
I
Tatiana in this piece. I loved Apocalypse in this piece, but you
I
gotta
didn't
cut
love
it off.
Billy previously. You liked Billy more than me in the spring section. I'm feeling Billy in this part. Billy
I
started to be
really,
a lot
I
more
really
meaningful to
liked
me.
Billy, and I think that he said, "You know what, Mama? Thank you for your support. I'm gonna do better," and he did.
Can we say as far as drip, the drip list? I hear me out. I think top drip.
No, don't say
I
it.
think I think it's most fair, and this sucks.
Don't say it.
If it's straight up the Sun Kings and it's just Unruin and Seal.
Please, I was waiting for you to say that.
Like
And yet it
like
is.
it
There's no
sucks,
way around it.
but it
There's
is.
no
Yeah.
way.
It sucks, but it is.
It just is.
Have you
Have
seen her
we what
costume?
was the other thing that we always do in this one that was unique?
Was it like to favorite moment? Was it? Yeah, it was favorite moment. It was favorite moment. So not best moment, but favorite. Okay, I've picked mine, and it's Billy explaining his powers and ending it by saying, "Well, that would just be unfair."
Okay, I love that.
Yeah,
Mine
fucking
is
so cool. So fucking so slick. Yeah,
mine is Andy's hand touching Fuuko's when she's a ghost.
that's a really good one too. That's a really good one. Old Man Andy's up there. That was my other choice.
Old
But
man Andy is so good, but no, mine
smug,
is still
yeah, smug Billy of just that would just be unfair is such a good line. Did they give him a southern accent in the dub? I hope they did. He should have a southern accent. His name's Billy. Any predictions right now? No. It's up in the air. Who the fuck knows at this point? We're in a crazy place. Cricket loves Billy. Cricket. This is some of the best taste Cricket's ever had to like Billy.
I
So
am
good.
I have a
I'm
hope.
sorry, Cricket.
I have a hope. It's not a prediction because I don't know if that's the direction they're going to take it,
Yeah.
but I have a hope.
All right. What's your hope?
I'm hoping that Fuuko is decided to just lean into her love for Andy.
Yeah, I hope they can be a little bit That would be nice.
I'm just
Um,
hoping I'm hoping that since she has come into her own power and she's embracing and understood the idea that it is going to be through the love and the relationships and the reciprocal tightening of their group, which is a very Japanese concept I told you about tightening your friendship group, just having one friendship
yeah.
group and continuing to tighten it over the years. I'm hoping that that includes just leaning into her love for Andy.
I am hoping we play with the idea that what rules exist in this new loop are different and unique, and we get to see the world be notably different in the same way we got to appreciate how weird and different the world was last time. And what's crazy is last time we were like 97 rules in, so the differences, like a lack of stars, weren't that extreme. So getting to see what the world is going to be like next time, this is going to be crazy.
I have a prediction that
What
eventually, I
rating
don't know if
section
it's
is
gonna be,
episode 167?
that we're gonna find out that Andy's, tattoos are actually caused through some kind of soul binding through a memory update,
Yeah,
and that
memory card.
memory card, and
The
that
same file.
we're gonna have, confirmation that we have 2 ways of this being seen through book and, game.
Mhm.
I can't wait to see the way in which we see the order that the rules came from since we're back into 19 frickin' 77. I can't wait for the flashbacks of Andy and Fuuko in the world when it wasn't all populated because
Yeah.
those will come. Those are definitely a prediction that'll have to
Well,
happen.
no, this time, remember, you wake up later and later. This time she was going to wake up in the 1800s.
Okay, but I can't wait to see
Yeah.
them prior to 1977 and the order in which they do things.
Mhm.
If she woke up in the 1800s, or
Yeah.
if he still has the same tattoo, that's going to tell us a lot because it's going to have been 18 something in a different lifetime. So
We
is there
hear
going to be a change to that?
I'm excited. All right, everybody.
All
Until
right.
next time, I've been unfiltered.
I've been unhinged.
There we go. And until next time,
Squish on squishies.
it's been lovely talking to you.